The calm and peaceful Earth that we call home today once had an extremely violent and terrifying past. So violent that it was almost unrecognizable. Large asteroids pummeled Earth's surface for millions of years. There was a time when Earth obliterated its own brother, a planet nearly the size of Mars. It was not just a collision, it was a colossal impact, an event powerful enough to reshape the entire planet. The debris from that collision eventually formed what we now see as the Moon. The oceans that cover more than 2/3 of Earth today were not always here. Most of the water we see now arrived much later in Earth's history, carried in from the outer regions of the solar system. At one point in Earth's history, a gas flooded the atmosphere, a gas so reactive that it wiped out most of the life that existed then. And here is the twist. That gas is what you are breathing right now. Massive collisions, volcanic explosions, firestorms, floods, ice ages. Earth's 4.5 billion year history is filled with events far more dramatic than anything we experience today. In this video, we are going to explore 7 of the most important events in that history. And interestingly, in this story, Earth itself is both the hero and the villain. Life on this planet plays only a supporting role. Hi friends, welcome to a new episode of Science Simplified for All. When we talk about the history of Earth, we have to start from its very origin. There are many other things to cover in this video, so we will go through this part quickly. Earth formed around 4.54 billion years ago. That is where our timeline begins. From there, we will move forward in time, gradually approaching the present, covering each major event along the way. Across the vast reaches of the universe, there are massive clouds of gas and dust drifting through space, called nebulae. They are extremely large, spanning tens of light years. When such a massive cloud collapses under its own gravity, the material begins to gather into dense regions. Most of the mass collects at the center and eventually forms a star. The remaining material spreads out into a rotating disk around that newborn star. This is called a protoplanetary disk. This disk is where planets are born. We do not have to guess about this process. We can actually see it happening right now. In the Orion Nebula, which is about 1,500 light years away from us, the James Webb Space Telescope has detected hundreds of such protoplanetary disks. These are essentially nurseries of future solar systems, and because of these observations, we now have a fairly good understanding of how star systems form from these disks. Our Sun and the entire solar system formed from one such nebula known as the solar nebula. In the early solar system, most of the material in this disk, approximately 99.8%, gathered at the center and formed the Sun. The small amount of material left behind eventually formed the planets. At first, tiny dust particles and molecules began sticking together. Gradually, they formed small rocky bodies similar to meteoroids. These are called planetesimals. These planetesimals then started colliding and merging with each other due to gravity. Over time, they formed larger bodies called protoplanets. These protoplanets continued to grow as more and more planetesimals and debris collided with them. After countless such collisions and mergers, a full-sized planet is formed. Because of this continuous bombardment and accumulation of material, the temperature of a forming planet becomes extremely high. Our Earth also formed through this same process. So, in its early stages, Earth was extremely hot, almost entirely molten, like a giant sphere of lava. In fact, early Earth was not a solid world. It was a churning sphere of molten rock, with no stable surface, no oceans, and no atmosphere as we know it today. However, even at that stage, parts of Earth's surface had already begun to cool and solidify, at least in some regions. We saw that the planets were formed from the protoplanetary disk around the Sun, but not all parts of that disk were the same. In the region closer to the Sun, the temperature was extremely high. Because of this, lighter elements like hydrogen and compounds like water could not remain there in stable form. They were mostly found in the outer regions of the disk. That is why the outer planets became gas giants like Jupiter and Saturn, and ice giants like Uranus and Neptune. In the inner region, only heavier materials like metals and silicate compounds remained. These materials came together to form the 4 terrestrial planets: Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. That is why these planets have solid rocky surfaces. As we discussed earlier, when Earth first formed, it was almost entirely in a molten state. Inside that molten Earth, something very important was happening. During that time, the heavier metals present in Earth, mainly iron and nickel, began to sink toward the center due to gravity. This process happened roughly between 4.5 and 4 billion years ago. These sinking metals eventually formed Earth's core. This metallic core turned out to be one of the most important features in the entire history of this planet. Deep inside Earth, molten iron in the outer core is constantly in motion. This movement generates electric currents, and those currents produce a magnetic field that extends far into space. This magnetic field acts like a protective shield around Earth. It deflects the solar wind, a continuous stream of charged particles coming from the sun. Without this shield, these particles would gradually strip away Earth's atmosphere, and without a stable atmosphere, life as we know it would not be possible. As the heavier metals sank inward, lighter materials like silicates remained closer to the surface. As Earth gradually cooled, these materials solidified and eventually formed rocks and soil. In the region of the protoplanetary disk where Earth formed, the amount of water was relatively low. Only small amounts of water trapped within silicate minerals were present in that region. So when Earth first formed, it contained only a very small fraction of the water we see today. During this period, Earth's surface was extremely active, with continuous volcanic eruptions. These volcanic activities released large amounts of gases from inside the planet. Over time, these gases formed a thick atmosphere around Earth. However, this early atmosphere did not contain oxygen. It was mainly composed of carbon dioxide, methane, and small amounts of water vapor. The temperature of this early atmosphere was extremely high, around 230 degrees Celsius. This entire period, from about 4.5 billion years ago to 4 billion years ago, is known as the Hadean Eon. The name comes from Hades, meaning the underworld, and that is exactly what Earth was at that time, a hot, violent, and completely uninhabitable world. We mentioned in the beginning that Earth had once destroyed its own brother. Let us now see what actually happened. In the early solar system, while Earth was still young, another protoplanet was orbiting the Sun in a similar orbit to Earth. This protoplanet is called Theia, and it was roughly the size of present-day Mars. It is believed that Theia was located at one of the L4 or L5 Lagrange points in Earth's orbit. Under stable conditions, it could have remained there for a very long time. However, the early solar system was not stable. The gravitational influence of Jupiter and Venus slowly disturbed Theia's orbit over time, causing it to drift away from that position and move toward Earth. As the two planets approached each other, gravity accelerated Theia toward Earth. By the time of impact, roughly 4.4 to 4.2 billion years ago, Theia was moving at around 9 kilometers per second, about 9 times faster than a rifle bullet. This was not a small impact. It was a direct planet-scale collision. Theia was largely destroyed in the impact, and a significant portion of its material merged with Earth. At the same time, a huge amount of debris was thrown into space. Some of it fell back to Earth, while the remaining material gradually came together to form the Moon. This idea is known as the giant impact hypothesis. Strong evidence for this comes from the Apollo program. Rocks and soil brought back from the Moon show a composition very similar to Earth's outer layers. But the most surprising evidence may still be inside Earth itself. Deep beneath the African continent and the Pacific Ocean, scientists have discovered 2 massive regions in the mantle where seismic waves behave differently from the surrounding material. These regions are known as low shear velocity provinces. Some scientists believe these could be remnants of Theia. material from the destroyed planet that sank deep into Earth during the collision. If that is true, then Theia did not completely disappear. It is still here, buried deep inside the planet it once collided with. Even the collision with Theia and the formation of the Moon did not mark the end of Earth's violent history. Between about 4.2 billion and 3.8 billion years ago, the planet went through a prolonged period of intense impacts. Asteroids and comets continuously struck Earth for hundreds of millions of years, repeatedly fracturing and reshaping its surface. This period is known as the Late Heavy Bombardment. One of the main reasons for this was Jupiter. In its early stages of solar system formation, Jupiter is believed to have formed closer to the Sun than where it is today. For a period of time, it moved even closer. As it moved, its enormous gravity disturbed the orbits of many objects in the outer solar system, sending large numbers of asteroids and icy bodies toward the inner planets. This bombardment was not limited to Earth. All the inner planets experienced it. However, the clearest evidence comes from the Moon. Because the Moon has no plate tectonics and almost no geological activity, its surface has remained largely unchanged for billions of years. The craters we see on the Moon today were mostly formed during this period. Later, the gravitational interaction between Jupiter and Saturn caused Jupiter to move outward and settle into its current orbit. If this had not happened, Jupiter could have continued to destabilize the inner solar system. In a way, Jupiter first triggered this bombardment and then helped bring it to an end. Even though this period was extremely destructive, it also played a crucial role in shaping Earth. Many of the objects that struck Earth during this time were formed in the colder outer regions of the solar system, where water existed as ice. With each impact, small amounts of this water were delivered to Earth. Over hundreds of millions of years, these impacts added up. A significant portion of the water we see on Earth today, the oceans, the rivers, and the rain, arrived in this way, carried from the outer solar system, one impact at a time. During the Late Heavy Bombardment, Earth's surface temperature was extremely high. Because of this, the water that reached Earth could not remain in liquid form. It existed entirely as water vapor in the atmosphere. Around 3.8 billion years ago, as the atmospheric temperature dropped below a critical threshold, the accumulated water vapor began to condense. And when it did not rain for just a few days or a few years. It rained for millions of years. Continuous planet-wide rainfall gradually filled the surface, forming the first rivers, lakes, and oceans. As the rain fell, many gases present in the atmosphere dissolved into the water and were carried down to the surface. At the same time, as water flowed across the land, it dissolved minerals and salts from rocks and transported them into the oceans. Over time, this process made ocean water rich in salts and minerals. It is worth noting that during this same period, roughly between 4 and 3.7 billion years ago, the first traces of life are believed to have appeared on Earth. These were simple single-celled organisms, likely drawing energy from chemical reactions near hydrothermal vents deep in the oceans. But that is a story for another time. What matters here is what the rain built: the oceans, the chemistry, and the conditions that made life possible. In less than 1 billion years, Earth had transformed from a dry, molten world into a planet covered with water. Earth's surface may look stable now, but it has always been in motion. The outermost layer of Earth, called the crust, is not a single continuous piece. It is broken into large sections known as plates. These plates slowly move relative to each other due to their interaction with the layer beneath them, the mantle. This overall process is known as plate tectonics. Many of the geological events we see today, such as earthquakes and volcanic eruptions, are direct results of this movement. Beyond earthquakes and volcanoes, this process plays a much deeper role. It continuously recycles Earth's surface, bringing fresh minerals back into circulation and helping regulate the planet's environment over long periods of time. Plate tectonics is believed to have started roughly between 4 billion and 3.5 billion years ago. And since then, it has been continuously reshaping the planet. As a result of this process, new land masses are formed, while older ones are pushed beneath the surface. Over Earth's history, continents have repeatedly come together to form large supercontinents and later broken apart again. However, during the early stages of this process, life had not yet spread onto land. It existed only in the oceans. For the first 2 billion years of Earth's history, there was no molecular oxygen on Earth, not in the atmosphere and not dissolved in the oceans. The element oxygen was present, but only in combined forms, as part of compounds like water, carbon dioxide, and silicate minerals. Free molecular oxygen, the kind we breathe today, did not exist. Around 2.5 billion years ago, something remarkable happened. A group of microorganisms known as cyanobacteria developed the ability to use sunlight as an energy source. Through photosynthesis, they produced food and started releasing oxygen as a byproduct. At first, this oxygen did not enter the atmosphere. The oceans at that time contained large amounts of dissolved iron. Oxygen reacted with this iron, forming iron oxide or rust. For hundreds of millions of years, most of the oxygen produced was absorbed in this way. Layer after layer of iron oxide settled on the ocean floor. Today, these layers are found in rocks across different parts of the world, providing clear evidence for this process. Only after most of the dissolved iron had reacted did free oxygen begin to accumulate. At first, it remained as dissolved oxygen in water and then gradually started to escape into the atmosphere. This change had major consequences. Oxygen is a highly reactive gas. It is the same element that enables fire, causes corrosion, and breaks down organic matter. For many of the life forms that existed at that time, oxygen was toxic. As oxygen levels increased, a large fraction of the existing microbial life was wiped out. An important point to note here is this: the oxygen that we now consider a symbol of life itself, the very breath of life, once wiped out a large fraction of the organisms that had existed on Earth for over 1.5 billion years. Oxygen also reacted with methane in the atmosphere, converting it into carbon dioxide. Methane is a much stronger greenhouse gas. So, this change is believed to have contributed to a significant drop in global temperatures, leading to periods of widespread glaciation. At the same time, oxygen also made something new possible. And here is the most interesting feature of life. It turned a once toxic substance like oxygen into an efficient source of energy. New life forms emerged that were capable of using oxygen as part of their metabolism and extracting more energy from what they consumed. This was a critical change that made the evolution of more complex forms of life possible. From this point onward, most of the major changes that happened on Earth are directly connected to the evolution of life. To explore that in detail, it would require a full video on its own. So, we will leave that for another time. If you found this video useful, consider liking and sharing it. And for more videos like this, subscribe to the channel and enable the bell icon. Thank you.